Hello and welcome to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast number 34. This week we look at one of the longest serving human characters in Doctor Who, Brigadier Sir Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart. But before we come to this much loved unit leader, here's some news.
This is the Doctor speaking. Well, one of them. Is there anybody there?
Regular listeners to the show will know that I don't very often have a news segment on this show, but this week has seen some Doctor Who news really worth talking about. Of course, I'm referring to the discovery of 9 missing episodes from the Patrick Troughton era. The Enemy of the World first aired on BBC One in December 1967, but episodes 1, 2, 4, 5 and 6 had been missing from the BBC archives until being recently found, which means that a complete version of this classic 6-part story now exists. Episodes 2 to 6 of The Web of Fear were also feared lost forever, but now episodes 2, 4, 5 and 6 have been recovered, which means that now, aside from episode 3, this story also exists in its entirety. Both stories star Patrick Troughton as the Doctor, with Fraser Hines as Jamie and Deborah Watling as Victoria. The Enemy of the World is unique insofar as Patrick Troughton also stars as the story's main villain, Salamander. And The Web of Fear is the story that introduces us to the much-loved character we'll be looking at in today's podcast, Brigadier Sir Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart.
Just routine, and my name is Lethbridge-Stewart.
William Nicholas Stone Courtney was born on the 16th of December 1929 and was the English actor most famous for playing the Brigadier in Doctor Who. Courtney was born in Cairo in Egypt, the son of a British diplomat, and was educated in France, Kenya and Egypt. He did his national service in the British Army, leaving after 18 months, ironically because he didn't want to pursue a military career. He next joined the Webber Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art and after 2 years began repertory theatre in Northampton, from where he moved to London in 1961. His first television work was in the 1957 series Escape. Prior to Doctor Who, Courtney made guest appearances in several cult television series, including The Avengers, The Champions and Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, as well as a racing driver in Riviera Police. Director Douglas Camfield originally considered Courtney for the role of Richard the Lionheart in The Crusade in 1965, a role that ultimately went to Julian Glover, though Camfield made sure to keep Courtney in mind for future casting. Courtney would make his first appearance in the series when Camfield cast him in the 1965 serial The Daleks' Master Plan, where he played Space Security Agent Brett Vian, opposite William Hartnell's first Doctor. Camfield liked Courtney's performance, and when the director was assigned the 1968 serial The Web of Fear, he cast Courtney as Captain Knight. However, when David Langton gave up the role of Colonel Lethbridge-Stewart to work elsewhere, Camfield recast Captain Knight and gave the Colonel to Courtney instead. The Lethbridge-Stewart character returned the following season in The Invasion. Promoted to the rank of Brigadier and in charge of the British contingent of UNIT, Lethbridge-Stewart had been charged with protecting the Earth from alien invasion. It was in this recurring role that he would become best known to the viewing audience, appearing in 101 episodes between 1970 and 1975 alone. The character proved popular enough to return in 1983, first in Mordrin Undead in the 20th anniversary special The Five Doctors following that. Courtney made his final canonical TV appearance in Doctor Who as the Brigadier in the 1989 serial Battlefield, although like many other former cast members, he also reprised the role for the charity special Dimensions in Time. Courtney played Lethbridge-Stewart either on television or in audio plays alongside every subsequent Doctor up to and including Paul McGann, as well as substitute First Doctor Richard Hurndall. Sadly, however, he didn't appear in the revived series. While he's acted with the 10th Doctor David Tennant in the Big Finish audio drama Sympathy for the Devil and Unit The Wasting, Tennant was playing a different character, Colonel Brimacombe Wood, on both occasions. The Brigadier is referenced in the episode The Poison Sky, where he's said to be stuck in Peru. Courtney did, however, return as the now knighted Sir Brigadier Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart, freshly returned from Peru in Enemy of the Bane, a 2-part story in the Sarah Jane Adventures which aired in December 2008. The Sarah Jane Adventures production team had intended that Courtney would reappear in the show the following year, The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, so that Lethbridge-Stewart could formally meet the 10th Doctor, but sadly Courtney was recovering from a stroke and unable to take part. In a 2008 interview, Courtney expressed his displeasure at the pacing of the new series of Doctor Who, claiming, "It's all a bit rushed sometimes. It's a heck of a lot to get in 3/4 of an hour, the whole story. In the old days it used to be half an hour every Saturday for 4 Saturdays or 6 Saturdays. So it does seem all a bit of a rush. In fact, it leaves me rather gasping for breath sometimes." In the Doctor Who episode The Wedding of River Song, which takes place in April 2011 and was originally broadcast in October 2011, it stated that Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart had died, leaving the 11th Doctor grief-stricken. Courtney also continued to act extensively in theatre and television after his main Doctor Who appearances, guest starring in such popular television programmes as Minder, All Creatures Great and Small, Only Fools and Horses and Yes Prime Minister. In 1982 he was cast alongside Frankie Howerd in the World War II comedy series Then Churchill Said to Me, but the series remained untransmitted for over a decade due to the outbreak of the Falklands War. He also had a regular role in the comedy French Fields between 1989 and 1991. Courtney appeared in an episode of the long-running BBC TV series The Two Ronnies, alongside Ronnie Barker and Ronnie Corbett, as the character of Captain Dickie Chapman, a fellow prisoner of war in Colditz during World War II, in a sketch based on the original BBC serial Colditz. In 1985 he played the narrator in the Rocky Horror Show, and in 1989 he portrayed Temple in the BBC Radio 4 adaptation of John Wyndham's Survival. Courtney went on to appear in the Big Finish Productions audio drama Earth Search Mind Warp, based on a James Follett novel, broadcast on the digital radio station BBC 7. He also starred as Inspector Lionheart, opposite fellow Doctor Who actor Terry Malloy, in the audio series The Scarifiers, and appeared in 3 episodes of Caldor City as the newscaster Dan Packard. Courtney regularly made personal appearances at science fiction conventions, and in 1997 was made the honorary president of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society. His theatrical agent was former Doctor Who actress Wendy Padbury, with whom he'd worked in The Invasion. In 1998, Courtney released his autobiography, titled 5 Rounds Rapid, after an infamous line of dialogue that the Brigadier had in the 1971 Doctor Who serial The Demons. He recorded his memoirs, subtitled A Soldier in Time, for release on CD in 2002 by Big Finish. In 2008 he appeared in the film Incendiary as the Archbishop of Canterbury alongside Ewan McGregor. An updated autobiography, Still Getting Away With It, was published in 2005 with co-author Michael McManus. Until his death, Courtney lived in London with his second wife Karen. Courtney's death was reported by SFX and The Stage early in the morning of the 23rd of February 2011. The exact cause of death wasn't given in these early reports, but Doctor Who audio play producers Big Finish, with whom Courtney had worked on several releases in his continuing role as the Brigadier, confirmed the date of his death as the 22nd of February 2011. The BBC reported that he had died in London at the age of 81. According to his official website, he died following a long illness. Doctor Who writer Mark Gatiss called him a childhood hero and the sweetest of gentlemen. Former Doctor Who Tom Baker also paid tribute, having visited him on the Friday before his death. Baker wrote, "We shall miss him terribly," in a newsletter on his website, in which he also indicated that Courtney had been battling cancer.
I must contact Geneva.
But what of the Brigadier himself? Brigadier Sir Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, generally referred to as the Brigadier or the Brig, is one of the founders of UNIT, the United Nations Intelligence Task Force, now of course referred to as the Unified Intelligence Task Force, an international organisation that defends Earth from alien threats, and Lethbridge Stewart served as the commander of the British contingent. The Brigadier was born in Scotland according to dialogue in Terror of the Zygons. He first encounters the Doctor in The Web of Fear, when Lethbridge Stewart is a colonel commanding a British Army detachment sent to investigate the Yeti in London Underground. By his next appearance in The Invasion, he's been promoted to the Brigadier and was working with UNIT. When the Doctor was forcibly regenerated and exiled to Earth, Lethbridge Stewart gives him a position as UNIT's scientific advisor after he helps defeat the Auton invasion. The Brigadier always faced the unknown with unflappable British aplomb. He has shown himself to be a true warrior in combat, ruthless when he has to be, and heroic in the face of often overwhelming odds that he and UNIT faced over the years. He eventually retired from the military to teach mathematics at an English public school in 1976, as seen in Mordred Undead. Most of the Third Doctor stories were set on Earth and feature Unit and the Brigadier heavily. While not as ubiquitous in the following years, he appeared alongside every subsequent Doctor in the original television series run, with the exception of the sixth. Although Lethbridge Stewart first met the Doctor in his second incarnation, he also met and worked with the first Doctor in the 10th anniversary special The Three Doctors, and again in the 20th anniversary special The Five Doctors. As one of the most popular recurring supporting characters in the television series, the Brigadier is often listed among the Doctor's companions. He is listed as such by BBC and included in John Nathan Turner's book discussing all of the Doctor's companions. Lethbridge Stewart's last appearance in a Doctor Who television episode was in 1989 in the 7th Doctor serial Battlefield. Called out of retirement to deal with an other-dimensional invasion of armoured knights led by Morgaine, he found himself once again at the Doctor's side. Lethbridge Stewart served as his world's champion as he faced down and killed the demonic Destroyer of Worlds, armed only with his service revolver and a bunch of silver-tipped bullets. Little was shown of Lethbridge Stewart's life outside Unit in the television series. The Planet of the Spiders referred to a relationship with a woman called Doris, and by the time of the events of Battlefield he was married to her. It was Courtney's own belief that the Brigadier had been in a previous marriage to a woman named Fiona, and that he and Doris were having an affair, his first marriage having ended due to his work. Although Lethbridge Stewart never appeared in the revived series, the character is still alive during the 10th Doctor's tenure. In the spin-off series, the Sarah Jane Adventures story, Revenge of the Slitheen, Sarah Jane Smith says to give her love to the Brig. In the 10th Doctor episode The Poison Sky, the Doctor mentions that he could use the Brigadier, and is then told that Sir Alistair is stranded in Peru, indicating that the Brigadier has been knighted. The first film footage from the classic era to appear in the revived era was the Brig's photograph displayed in the slow pan across Sarah Jane Smith's attic in the opening scene of the Sarah Jane Adventures premiere, Invasion of the Bane. Indeed, in 2008, Courtney did reprise the role of the Brigadier in the aforementioned story, and is confirmed his knighthood repeatedly. Major Kilburn and Sarah Jane each address him as Sir Alistair, and he later introduces himself fully as Brigadier Sir Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart to Mrs. Wormwood. This episode refers back to the Peru mission, as there is mention of him being debriefed about it. Sarah Jane asks Lethbridge Stewart to assist her in accessing Unit's Black Archive, a top-secret alien artifact facility. In his old age, the Brigadier has developed a dislike for the new way that Unit works, and often refers to events that happened in his day. He walks with a walking stick now, but is seen driving a Bentley to Unit's Black Archive. His wife, presumably Doris, is mentioned in this story. Lethbridge Stewart does assist Sarah Jane and Rani in escaping Unit, and later confronts a Bane disguised as a Unit officer, killing him with a gun hidden in his cane. In the Sarah Jane Adventures episode The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith, Clyde Langer tells Peter Dalton that the Brigadier can't make it to the wedding because he's back in Peru. He's then reported to be in Peru for a third time in Death of the Doctor. Sometime following the events of Death of the Doctor, Sir Alistair himself becomes ill and is moved into a nursing home. In The Wedding of River Song, the 11th Doctor rings Sir Alistair's nursing home to have him made ready for a trip. However, a nurse regretfully informs him that the Brigadier died peacefully a few months ago, but had often spoken well of him.
Jenkins? Yeah. Shut for the wings there. 5 rounds rapid.
Courtney played the Brigadier in 2 BBC Radio 4 Doctor Who plays, set during the Third Doctor's era, The Paradise of Death and The Ghosts of N-Space, alongside John Pertwee and Elizabeth Sladen. For Big Finish, he's played the part of Lethbridge Stewart in several plays, with Minuet in Hell revealing that he played a role in the establishment of the Scottish Parliament, and also that he does covert work for the UN as a plausibly deniable agent. He also played an alternate universe Brigadier in the Doctor Who Unbound plays Sympathy for the Devil and Masters of War. And Courtney has also voiced the Brigadier in 2001 for the webcast Death Comes to Time. In December 2004, Big Finish released the first of a series of unit-based audio plays, where General Sir Alistair Lethbridge-Stewart acted as a consultant to the new generation of officers and by the series' end had become UNIT's new scientific advisor. In the Doctor Who magazine comic strip Warkeeper's Crown, Lethbridge-Stewart made a reappearance alongside the 10th Doctor after being kidnapped by warlords as a tactical commander. By this time he is said to have been an old officer stationed in Sandhurst.
Well, goodbye, Doctor. Goodbye, Doctors, Brigadier. Splendid fellows, all of you.
Sadly, I was unable to get to any conventions that Nicholas Courtney attended, but everyone I've spoken to who said they'd met him also said what a lovely man he was. Despite not meeting the man, through his role as the Brigadier and various interviews I've seen him in, I still felt like I knew him, and I was moved to tears when his untimely passing was announced. Courtney was a lovely, genuine man who played a much-loved character in a well-loved TV show. Taken too soon. R.I.P. Brigadier Sir Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart. And that's all for this week. As always, thank you for listening. And if you do have any feedback on the podcast or about your memories of either Nick Courtney or the Brigadier, you can email me at respectthething@outlook.com. That's respectthething@outlook.com. Or message me on Facebook at Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. This being October, it's the turn of the 10th Doctor to come under the spotlight, and next week that's exactly what we'll be doing. So be sure to listen in and get the lowdown on the Doctor who could never quite decide between a brown suit and a blue one. Once again, thank you for listening to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are copyright of the BBC, and no infringement is intended.